What's going on, Ramley? This is Zac Maier, and I just have one simple statement for the Rams. The Rams are really going to need to set the edge this year. Literally, the edge, as in an edge rusher. Yes, so in the 2023 NFL Draft, I really think the Rams should take an edge rusher as their first pick. So in the second round, their pick 36. And it's for a lot of reasons. I mean, mostly it's because, during this offseason, they've kind of gotten rid of most of their defensive players. I mean, you look at it, they parted ways with Leonard Floyd and Bobby Wagner. They traded Jalen Ramsey to the Dolphins. And then you lost out in free agency to Nick Scott, Taylor Rapp, both your starting safeties. You lost Greg Gaines, a player, really second to Aaron Donald on that defensive line. And even David Long Jr. you're out with. And so when you look at those key players departing, really, I think this is the time for the Rams to, retool, the favorite Rams term right now, but to retool the defense. And I think going and looking for an edge player would be that solution. Because when you look at the Rams, they were in a different position when they won the Super Bowl, just 2 seasons ago in 2022. Because they had the financial resources to truly go in. They were able to mid-season go in and get players like Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller. And when you look at Von Miller specifically, they were able to set the edge, pretty tightly. You had Von Miller on one side, you had Leonard Floyd on the other side, and then you had Aaron Donald and his supporting cast throughout the middle. They were a true juggernaut of a team, of a defense specifically. And, then you look at this season and you see just how much they missed, and they wish they would have signed Von Miller, to an extended contract, because, really they didn't have that edge, which means they couldn't pressure the quarterback like they wanted to. And that could be detrimental, especially to your young secondary. It gives quarterbacks the freedom and the movement to be able to throw those passes. It's able to give running backs the running space to be able to go seek the edge. And not really feel threatened that it's going to be stopped. And you could really see that this year, especially with Raheem Morris's calling the plays. This year, 27% of his play calls were blitzes, compared to 34% during their Super Bowl run. So you can tell that he felt uncomfortable calling those blitz plays because they couldn't bring the pressure they needed to feel comfortable that their secondary was able to make up or that their rush was going to be pressured, so that their secondary wasn't going to be needed as much. And if you use the Rams' first pick, like I said, pick 36, I really think that you could set this defense up for success, especially since you're kind of putting at a disadvantage with losing a lot of these key defenders that you've had over the last several years. But most Rams fans and spectators, they're going to be like, oh no, the Rams are going to be picking out offensive weapons. They're going to be focusing on the offense for their first picks. But in my opinion, I don't know why. Because the Rams, other than, a backup quarterback and their punt returner / fourth, fifth, sixth string wide receiver, which don't get me wrong, Brandon Powell was amazing, and I wish he had more opportunities under his belt. He was definitely a great punt returner. But really, you're looking at what do the Rams really need? And I don't think it's a lot. They still have their offensive weapons in Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson and Allen Robinson, Ben Skoranek. I know Allen Robinson, there's still a potential for a trade, and that's certainly possible. But even if there isn't a trade, I still think that they're going to find a way to utilize him to its fullest. Matthew Stafford is finally healthy and be able to, go through this whole off season, with OTAs and going through that whole process, getting more comfortable with Allen Robinson, I think it is going to be a big factor. And even Cam Akers was looking like his explosive self towards the last season. So But so why offensive weapons? Well, you got some Ram fans there who are like, well, they need to focus on the offensive line. I mean, did you see that offensive line last year? Yeah, I did. And I saw that they were hit with injuries every single week, going 11 straight weeks, the first 11 weeks of the season, having a different rotation of offensive line, switching out your centers repeatedly. After one would get healthy, then he would get unhealthy, and you would have to put your second string, Coleman Shelton, even though he was on the offensive lines, having to shift him over. So if you come into this season with a fully healthy offensive line and you still have your weapons, I just don't think the need is there. I think the need would be rather useful for the defense. So assuming the O-line is healthy, I just don't think there's urgency in getting those positions. But let's go back and talk about the defense again. So the question becomes, who should the Rams look at as using their first pick in the NFL draft for 2023? Well, I think Nolan Smith would be the ideal candidate for the Rams. This is assuming he makes it to 36. It's just as his speed and his explosiveness just puts him at a level that it's just not compared to a lot of the other draft candidates. And I just think that we could really put him on a different level that could really put pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. There are critiques about him. They say, his size. And I get that. I get his size. But people also said the same thing about Aaron Donald. And look what Aaron Donald's done. Some other good early round options would be BJ Ujari, Will McDonald IV, and Felix Andoik Uzumai. Will the Rams actually choose an edge position as their first pick? Kind of the whole debate is you never know with the Rams. The Rams really do like their offensive weapons. They like to, score the high points. And if they can do that by bringing in more weapons, that's what Sean McVay loves, and that's what Sean McVay will do. But if the Rams really want to be competitive this year, if Kevin Demoff really means that the Rams want to win the West and they're just not trying to, get by this season just to have another super season for 2024, I think the Rams really need to look at setting the edge because they need to put more pressure on the opposing offense. If the Rams want to score a lot points, they have to outscore their opponents. So they're still going to have a defense that puts up a fight and truly doesn't break in their bend don't break structure. When you focus on this one position as an edge, it just brings so many different levels of support to the defense. It allows you to support your young secondary. Like I mentioned before, putting pressure on the quarterback can interrupt his throws, can make bad decisions. But when he has time in the pocket, like we saw many times last season with the opposing quarterbacks, they were able to, pick on Jalen Ramsey. They were able to pick on the other defensive backs and quarterbacks. They were able to pick on Taylor Rapp and, even Nick Scott at times. But when you have someone who's able to set the edge and actually put pressure on the quarterback, that's when the quarterback or running back, that's when they start making mistakes. When they start feeling the pressure and they start just throwing the ball wherever they can to try to either throw it away or try to make a play even with pressure in their face. But a skilled rusher, it can be effective at stopping the run. If you contain the edge, you're forcing the ball to go back up the middle. And who's in the middle? Well, of course, it's Aaron Donald. So, if you can bring the ball to Aaron Donald, he's going to stop the ball. And then it also allows your safeties to come in. It allows your linebackers to come in and be able to prevent the run from happening. But lastly, a versatile edge, it just allows you to, can be stand tall to bat down the ball, but it can also allow you to just, put your hand in the dirt and be a true defensive end. And this versatility can really benefit Raheem Morris, especially in his play calling. He'll be able to, confuse the offense. He'll be able to change up his schemes and keep that offense honest in the plays that they're going to have to do. But those are just my thoughts. What are your thoughts about the Rams choosing an edge with their first pick in the 2023 NFL draft? Leave those in the comments below. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. I'm at Zac Maier. And if you like this content, you like the content that I provide, check out my other podcast, East Coast Rams. You can find that at East Coast Rams on Twitter or youtube.com/@East Coast Rams. See y'all later, Ramley.
Get in on the action with Prize Picks. Simply pick 2 or more players and win up to 10x your money. Join over 1 million people who have found a better way to play. Download the app today and get your first deposit matched up to $100 using our promo code DTRAMS.